Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Westfield Bank. For more than 160 years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley. With convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut, visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org.
Good morning, Westfield. It is April 28th. It is 6:01. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning.
How we doing this morning?
Counting down to vacation.
Oh, that's right. Big vacation. So let's talk about that. Heading to Texas, right?
Correct, yes.
For a launch, correct?
Maybe.
Maybe
we'll see.
a launch. Okay, tell us what, because usually when we're flying to launches, it's either Florida or Maryland. So what's
Virginia,
or Virginia.
Yep.
So what is the Texas?
That is
piece of
SpaceX's Starship program.
Okay.
So that's the big Buck Rogers looking thing that you see, the big cylinder that looks like a big stainless steel bullet.
Okay.
They may launch as early as Friday. I'm hoping weather pushes it back just a hair. But either way, I have a warm pool and the Gulf of Mexico.
There you go.
And it's going to be 80 degrees in the day and 70 at night. So
should be nice.
I'm okay with that.
Yep.
Perfectly okay. We also found Kenny's going down there with me because he needs to get away too.
Okay.
We found an air show on Sunday. We fly in on Saturday. There's an air show at the halfway point in Corpus Christi, Texas.
Okay.
And we just bought VIP tickets for that so we can have a place to sit and get food and have commodes and things like that.
Nice.
So that's part of their Buccaneer days.
Very nice.
So we're going to have some fun no matter what. Bringing a couple of small pieces of equipment just in case.
Okay.
But there's people that can do it far better. They have a bigger bankroll than we do,
Yeah.
like Everyday Astronaut and Mary the Boca Chica gal. They've gotten a lot of funding. This lady won't sell her property. She lives a couple of miles away from SpaceX, and she's in a good enough spot where she's put a tower up at her house and has security cameras that train on the thing and stream 24/7. And she has made a living now off of SpaceX.
I mean, Pete, I'm thinking, how cool would that be, right?
Right.
This is like your
poor,
ideal, dream come true.
Right, a very poor community, a little village down in Boca Chica, Texas.
Okay.
The main place is South Padre Island, which is right across the channel. But I mean, SpaceX tried to buy them out.
Okay.
They wanted the land, and they said no. And now they've become friendly with them, and you see them as an asset.
Okay.
I think they're seeing them as an asset.
Good.
But they have to every time there's a launch attempt, they have to evacuate their houses.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yep. They can stay if they want to, but SpaceX, I think, has set up a rallying point for them with food and like a little place where they can go to and hang out and watch the launch. And they've become, I think Elon tried to do it, the buy them out to begin with.
Yes.
And then said, you know what, we're going to use this as an asset.
Let's just be friends.
Well, and they can cover.
Together.
This is the first time that a space vehicle has been developed in full public view.
Yeah.
And so they're embracing that.
Good.
Because, honestly, with all the coverage it's getting and all the video and everything like that, NASA just awarded SpaceX a $2.4 billion contract.
Wow.
To really aggressively run with the Starship program and make a lunar version, because that's going to be the lunar lander.
That's interesting.
Yep. I think they
very
just
interesting.
saw-
What a really cool story. So
yeah, I mean,
this-
you saw the first golden age of space. You were young in the
Yeah.
60s, right?
Yes.
And so
I
now
was.
this is the second golden age of space, really,
Yeah.
that the private companies are
Oh,
really pushing
you know,
hard.
it was interesting because I was in elementary school in the 60s,
Mm-hmm.
and that, it was all about rockets and space,
Yes.
and NASA, and
Yep.
I mean, every kid that I knew that was my age at one point or another, we all put together rockets.
Yep.
More than one on one occasion,
Space fever.
third grade, fifth grade, so, whatever. So yeah, how fun. So there is something scheduled for, hopefully scheduled tentatively.
So there's
Is this
no
all
real
based on weather, or what's going on
There's
here?
no real schedule. So
Okay.
Starship number 15, they've developed this is the 15th prototype.
Okay.
Is on the pad. They had a static fire of the engines yesterday, which is the first test before they fly. Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, Elon Musk said possible flight. And usually they haven't kind of figured out the whole landing thing yet. So
Okay.
usually it crashes.
Yikes.
but because it's stainless steel,
Yeah.
they're so cheap to produce that
Okay.
they've been cranking them out.
Okay.
So I don't think we'll see another one right away if one crashes. But
Mm-hmm.
here's the thing: if it lands and they get a successful landing, they may fly it again next week just to see if they can fly to turn it around pretty quickly,
Yeah.
because that's their thing, reusability.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows?
Yeah.
But
Well-
you know what? I need a vacation.
Yeah. Keep us posted. I mean, the whole thing sounds really pretty fun and pretty cool.
And then the other thing is on the news and politics front, we're so close to the border.
Mm-hmm.
We're less than 2 miles from the border.
Mm-hmm.
I may go and see what it's like on the Rio Grande River, and see what, because I can't wrap my head around it. I see the news reports and I my brain grasps the concept. But if I see it myself, maybe I can bring that message back to people here and say, "Hey guys, we're so far removed, but it is a real problem down there."
You're an adventurous sort, Pete. So
I am.
report back.
Yes.
We'll expect a full report.
Why not?
Yeah.
You're so close. Why turn a blind eye
that-
to it?
Yeah. Well, safe travels.
Yeah.
Just be safe.
I'm also going to be visiting with my ex-sister-in-law down there. She lives in Houston, so
Yeah, I do. I remember that.
we're going to
I
get
remember
together
that
for
she's down there.
dinner and just kind of hang out, because she said, "Great news, we fly out on Sunday." They're heading out on Sunday, so
Okay.
because both their kids are in college now,
Yeah.
so it's just like the two of them in the big old house, and
Makes a difference.
her parents are here and his parents are in Miami, so
Okay. So here we go.
they kind of go places.
Well, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And so what? So on a different subject, any updates on any meetings? Do we have any meetings last night? Were you involved in any
Conservation
city
Commission.
somethings? Yeah.
They had 9 hearings last night.
Holy smokes! Who knew that this was?
Well,
This
this
was-
is the
wow.
busy season. People are building.
Yeah.
Putting
That's
in,
true.
Sometimes even to put in a pool, if you're close to a wetland, you got to
Yep.
get approved by the Conservation Commission.
Yep. Yep.
I think Dan Alley got his farming thing approved.
Okay. I'm
Dan
not
Alley
sure
wrote
it
a
was-
book. You know that, right?
I don't.
Yeah, he wrote a book called Gardening with Minerals.
Okay.
And he
Good
has
segue into my next topic here. But
he's
go
gonna
ahead.
he's gonna have a commercial farm, small commercial farm down there.
Okay.
There's new processes and organics and he says in 1 gram of, I think the quote was, he was on with Mark Auerbach
Okay.
talking about his book.
Yeah.
And he said in 1 gram of earth, there's enough minerals to farm, 4 acres?
Wow.
I was like, wow, okay. I
You
didn't
know,
know that.
you got to give him credit for he is certainly industrious.
He walks
I
it.
mean, yes, he does.
He
yes,
doesn't talk
does.
it, he walks
I don't
it.
always agree with everything, but he absolutely does. And I've always said, very hard worker.
Yeah, gets my respect for that. He works hard. He did something with Kenny where they had a police officer that was really sick, and they were going to do a drive-by parade with several local police departments. He couldn't shoot it, but he could edit it, and he talked to Kenny, or vice versa. But he worked with Kenny on getting that done, and Kenny did a great job with that, working with
Awesome.
him. It wasn't for air, so Kenny just did it with his own equipment. But
Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
you okay?
Yeah, I am. Swallowed wrong.
Verklempt.
Oh, good grief. Okay, well, talking about Counselor Alley and his mineral garden, April is National Garden Month. So let's get into that. So during National Garden Month in April, gather up your tools. You have permission to get dirty. Whether you dream in color, spice, or flavor, the all-important pleasure is getting to place those seeds or plants in the ground and nurture them along their way. As gardeners know, we learn from each other and find joy in improving our skills. So sharpen your tools, collect your seeds, prepare your beds. It's time to plant. So here are a few tips for if you're a new gardener, if this is something that, you haven't tried but maybe want to dabble in. So first of all, folks, as with anything, start small. Don't rip up your entire backyard and decide you're going to plant a vegetable garden.
Yeah.
Start small. Gardening can be an investment. Start with container gardening if you want to give it a whirl. Tomatoes and green peppers will provide color and produce to eat. Herbs such as basil, sage, and rosemary can also be brought in during the winter if they're planted in a container. If kept in a sunny window and watered when they are dry, they should survive the winter. So just to think about that for planting spring, summer, fall, but that would be something you could take in, and you can obviously use those herbs in your cooking. Soil. Make sure you use the right soil for the plant. Depending on the plant, you may need to check with the garden center to determine if you have the right soil to grow a particular tree or plant. Areas with clay soils do not drain well, and your plants will have wet roots in rainy weather. Sandy soils drain easily, but in a drought, the plant will require more water unless the plant is drought resistant. So you have to kind of do a little research on knowing what you're planting.
Yeah.
Potted,
what? Believe it or not,
ahead.
the Conservation Commission, our specialists can tell you what the local native species
Oh,
are.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it does make a huge difference because I remember when we moved from one house to another house and we wanted to transplant a tree, and I know we called in like a tree expert who said, this tree, it's a miracle that this tree's surviving on this piece of property because of the soil in the tree, and moving it probably it was probably not going to make it. So we decided to leave it for the other owners, just because of the tree. We didn't want to be selfish about it. Also remember this, and I know Gary, my husband Gary's like really big on this, potted plants. So anything in a container, such as clay, plastic, or a resin pot, will require more watering than a plant that's been placed in the earth. So if you have decorative plants that you use in the spring, maybe up on your porch or your deck or things like that, that's fine, but they do require a lot of watering because they will bake in there, especially when we get into July and August. So depending on the daily temperature, these plants will need to be watered at least twice a day. And then fertilizer. Not all fertilizer is the same, so make sure you read the labels and use the correct fertilizer for the type of plant. And, again, whether it's vegetable or herbal or flowers or green, whatever. Mulch. Mulching bedded plants helps to protect them from weeds and keeps the water contained, so there's less water loss. And raised beds. I'm really getting big on. I want to do a little research on raised flower and vegetable beds because it brings it from the ground up just to save on weeding and also backbreaking work. And I think for some of our older adults, I have a neighbor who's in his mid-80s, and he has been gardening ever since he moved in. I mean, we moved in at the same time 20 years ago to our houses, and he has a vegetable garden every year. It has gotten smaller as Norm has gotten a little older. But, I talked to him last year, and I said, Norm, we really should think about raised beds for him. And he said somebody else had brought that up to him, too, so I'm going to do a little research on that because I really feel like that would be, what a great gift. All right, so happy National Garden Month, and so make sure that you're out there, and again, just start small, but just think of the joy that we could do a whole session on the therapeutic value of gardening. There's a lot of it, and I have some volunteers that have helped out at the senior center, and they've also volunteered at Grandmother's Garden, and they've just really talked about the therapeutic value of helping out there. And so think about it, something to think about. Okay, I think it is 6:14. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. In honor of National Garden Month, we are going to listen to The Garden Song by Peter, Paul, and Mary.
By inch, row by row, I'm gonna make this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe and a piece of fertile ground. Inch by inch, row by row, someone bless these seeds I sow. Someone warn them from below till the rain come tumbling down. Pulling weeds and picking stones, we are made of dreams and bones. I feel the need to grow my own, 'cause the time is close at hand. Time is close at hand. Rain for grain, sun and rain, I find my way in nature's chain. I tune my body and my brain to the music of the land. Come on and sing it with us. Inch by inch, row by row, gonna make this garden. Gonna make this garden. All it takes is a rake and a hoe and a piece of fertile ground. Inch by inch, inch by inch, row by row, someone bless these seeds I sow. Someone warn them from below till the rain comes tumbling down. So plant your roots straight and long and temper them with prayer and song. Mother Earth can keep you strong if you give her love and care. Now the crow watching hungrily from his perch in yonder tree. In my garden I'm as free as that feather thief up there. Ooh, acapella now. Inch by inch, row by row, gonna make this garden. I'm gonna make this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe and a piece of fertile ground. A little louder now. Inch by inch, row by row, someone bless these seeds. Someone warn them from below till the rain come tumbling. Inch by inch, row by row, someone bless these seeds. Someone warn them from below till the rain come tumbling down.
Underwriting for Community Radio on WSKB is brought to you in part by Rockies. Over 30 convenient locations throughout Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Florida. One of the nation's largest ACE dealers. Expertise and great product selection in paint, hardware, lawn and garden. That's Rockies. Rock solid service since 1926. On the web at rockies.com.
Hi, this is Harry Rock, host of Rock on Westfield every fourth Wednesday at 8 a.m. Tune in for my view of this place I call home.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Hi.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:20. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with an very anxious Pete Coles, who's going to be heading out on vacation soon. So Pete, what are you actually? When's your last day on?
Oh, I'm working right through Friday.
Okay. All right. And then flying, are you flying out Friday or
No,
Saturday?
Yeah, so for some reason I was stupid and scheduled to shift to Mount Holyoke. I'm working till 11 o'clock, and then we got to be at the airport at 5 o'clock in the morning.
What?
I told Kenny, I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know why I did this, but I don't back out of my commitments.
No, you don't. You are awesome that way.
And so I said, well, I'll be sleeping on the plane.
I was going to say, so you sleep on the plane?
Yes.
Is it a, do you have a layover someplace or?
Yes, so we're going to fly to Baltimore.
Yep.
And then we change planes there. We do not change planes in Miami.
Oh.
And then, because there's a stop in Miami.
Okay.
It was the only way we get.
was the only
Southwest
way
has
you could
so
get there.
few flights
Yeah.
now.
Yes.
It'll start picking up now, but
Yep.
they have so few flights that they canceled our flights twice.
Oh, wow.
Like one time early on in this, we had a flight through Denver,
Yep.
and then
Which kind of makes sense.
all of a sudden they canceled the flight from Denver to Hartford,
Okay.
and we were stuck in Denver.
Yeah. Wow.
So we had to rebook a couple times.
All right. Okay.
It's interesting trying to travel right now.
Yes, I know. And yeah, just
An interesting proposition.
it is. All right, let's do. Well, first of all, I just want to let folks know what's coming down the pike. So we have Joe Rouse will be with us, second hour, Director of Public Health for the City of Westfield. Of course, we'll be talking all things COVID. We'll be talking about vaccine and where to get them and how to get them and all that good stuff. And anything else that Joe wants to throw in there, anything else that the health department is working on these days. And also, now, will Harry Rock be in after me?
Yes, he has the mayor on this morning.
Oh, he does. Okay, very good. Will he
Yes.
be coming in or will he be doing that remotely?
I believe they're both coming in.
Okay, very good. So stay tuned for that. So that'll be starting
So
at 8
is
o'clock.
Joe coming in by phone? I blanked on something.
Joe is supposedly, unless he changed his mind, going to come in person since
Yay!
he and I are both fully vaccinated now.
Me too, so we're
and
good.
you have been. I know you've been good for a while, but
Yeah.
we had to catch up. So
Oh, he's got a lot to talk about after yesterday with the governor.
yes, there is all kinds of stuff to talk about.
I'm
I was
still
tried.
pissed off that we're going to be the last state in New England to open up.
Well, I'm good with it. I'm fine. I'm good with it. But anyway, I was just trying to tease out, like what exactly all that means, and some of it's confusing. So anyway, we'll have Joe in here.
No, not
to
in
help us.
Massachusetts.
Oh my gosh, it's like I had my highlighter out. And I'm like, okay, so I get this, but then wait a minute, how's that jive with this over here? So, Joe will help us.
I'm
tease it
getting
all
very
out.
annoyed with Secretary Sutter because, our governor just does what he's told.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting very annoyed with her because it seems like there's a couple instances I know that things were bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my personal opinion.
Okay. Yeah, and everybody's got one. So, but anyway, Joe Rouse will be with us second hour, and hopefully we can at least get some of the nuts and bolts about the changes. Okay, April 28th, famous birthdays. Anne Margaret Olsen, actress born April 28th, 1941 in Sweden. She is 80 years old today. It's hard to believe that Anne Margaret is 80 years old. After graduating high school in 1959, Anne Margaret attended Northwestern University, and within her first few months at college, she teamed up with 3 male students to form a jazz combo. After her freshman year, she withdrew from school to perform at various cabaret clubs with her band, and at one such club, she was discovered by George Burns. He invited her to perform for a 10-night engagement at the Sahara Hotel, where the 18-year-old earned rave reviews. A succession of offers followed, including a record contract from RCA and a 7-year film contract from 20th Century Fox. Anne Margaret's films included Pocketful of Miracles in 1961, Bye Bye Birdie with Dick Van Dyke in 1963, Carnal Knowledge with Jack Nicholson in 1971, The Train Robbers with John Wayne in 1973, and the rock opera Tommy in 1975. During the 1980s, Anne Margaret enjoyed a succession of Emmy Award nominations for her performances in some of the decade's most acclaimed TV movies. She shed her glamorous image to give a convincing performance as a sickly Iowa farm wife in Who Will Love My Children. The following year, she played Blanche Dubois in the ABC remake of A Streetcar Named Desire. And in 1987, she was cast in her first television miniseries, The Two Mrs. Grenvilles. In the 90s, Anne Margaret alternated between TV and films. She was introduced to a new generation with her role in the 1993 comedy hit Grumpy Old Men and its equally popular 1995 sequel, Grumpier Old Men. So happy 80th birthday to Anne Margaret. And let's see. Oh, yes. We'll do this one. We'll do another birthday. So it is also the birthday today of the late Harper Lee, author born April 26, 1926 in Monroeville, Alabama. She passed away in 2016 at the age of 89. The youngest of 4 children, Harper Lee grew up as a tomboy in a small town. Her father was a lawyer, a member of the Alabama state legislature, and also owned part of the local newspaper. For most of Harper Lee's life, her mother suffered from mental illness, rarely leaving the house. Lee was known for being a loner and an individualist. Harper Lee published 2 books in her lifetime, To Kill a Mockingbird and Go Set a Watchman. She also worked on and off with her friend Truman Capote on his famed book In Cold Blood. In July of 1960, To Kill a Mockingbird was published and picked up by the Book of the Month Club and the Literary Guild. A condensed version of the story appeared in Reader's Digest magazine. The following year, the novel won the prestigious Pulitzer Prize and several other literary awards. A classic of American literature, To Kill a Mockingbird has been translated into more than 40 languages, with more than 1 million copies sold each year. The work's central character, a young girl named Scout, was not unlike Lee in her youth. The work was more than a coming-of-age story. The novel reflected racial prejudices in the South. Scout's attorney father, Atticus Finch, tries to help a black man who has been charged with raping a white woman to get a fair trial and to prevent him from being lynched by angry white people in a small town. Harper Lee published her second novel, Go Set a Watchman, in July 2015. The story was essentially a first draft of To Kill a Mockingbird and followed the later lives of the novel's characters. So happy birthday to the late Harper Lee. And I have to say, I think Harper Lee is the coolest name ever. I just think that is such a cool name, Harper Lee.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. And, To Kill a Mockingbird, of course, that was made into a movie with starring Gregory Peck. And it was a great flick. And, it's kind of timeless because of, everything unfolding in this day and age. It's, the story lives on. So if you haven't read it or you haven't seen the movie, I would highly recommend both. Book is excellent. Film is excellent. Just all good stuff. Okay. Let's see. We'll do one more birthday before we take a break. So it is the birthday today of the late Carolyn Jones. And you probably don't recognize the name, but you'll recognize her most famous character. So Carolyn Jones was born on this date in 1930 in Amarillo, Texas. She died in 1983 at the age of 53. Carolyn Jones was an American actress of television and film. She began her film career in the early 1950s, and by the end of the decade had achieved recognition with a nomination for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress for the film The Bachelor Party, and a Golden Globe Award as one of the most promising new actresses of 1959. Her film career continued for another 20 years. Films included The War of the Worlds, The 7-Year Itch, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and How the West Was Won. From the 1950s to the early 1980s, Carolyn Jones had guest appearances in a number of television shows, including Dragnet, Wagon Train, Dr. Kildare, Batman, The Mod Squad, Love American Style, The Love Boat, and Fantasy Island. In 1964, she began playing the role of Morticia Addams in the original black and white television series The Addams Family. Using a long, coal black wig, the role brought Carolyn Jones success as a comedian and a Golden Globe Award nomination. So for those of you who remember The Addams Family,
Yeah, right.
right, with Morticia,
Now you know
now,
the rest of
now
the
you know
story.
the rest of the story. Exactly, Pete. It's a Paul Harvey line. Now you know the rest of the story. Because I'm reading this and I'm going, okay. Well, she was in a lot of, famous films. I mean, those, the War of the Worlds, The 7-Year Itch, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. But how are you going to remember her? The Addams Family, of course. All right, folks, it is 6:30. You're listening.
We'll actually have that sound drop.
Now you know the rest of the story.
I loved Paul Harvey.
I did
was
too.
Such a Paul Harvey fan.
That's why I'm a huge fan of Mike Rowe.
Yes.
The way I heard it.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Just and we
Huge
talked
fan.
about that when it was Paul Harvey's birthday, and you were telling me about
Yep.
Mike Rowe. Yeah. It was. He was just great. I used to listen to him when I lived in Iowa. He was on every morning on my way to work. And
I ran him at noontime on WHYN.
did you?
Yep.
Oh man. And at
Paul
Friday,
Harvey News and Comment.
Yep, Paul Harvey News and Comment. And I remember every Friday, he would always start out with, "Good morning, Americans. It's Friday." And I used to do that every Friday when I went to work. I was working out. That was when Gary was going to chiropractic school. We were living out in Iowa, and I would burst into this senior living the place that I was working at. Ridgecrest Retirement Village was the name of it. Good morning, Americans. It's Friday. All right, so now you know the rest of the story about Carolyn Jones. She was Morticia Addams. We're going to take a short break. It is 6:31. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. So in honor of the birthday of Anne Margaret, we're going to play the song Bye Bye Birdie, the title song from the show Bye Bye Birdie. Now, this is near and dear to my heart because when I was a senior in high school, I did a lot of theater and community theater. I'm sure you all find that hard to believe when I was in high school. And we did Bye Bye Birdie. And as I was so typecast when I was in high school, Pete, I always played the mother, the spinster teacher, the queen. I was never the princess. I was the queen. So I played Mrs. McAfee in Bye Bye Birdie.
Just
but
means you're an old soul.
well, that was it. Everybody said the same thing. I was like 17 going on 45, when I was in high school. So I'm sure you all find that hard to believe. But anyway, this is the title song from Bye Bye Birdie, sung by Anne Margaret. We'll be back.
Bye bye birdie, I'm gonna miss you so. Bye bye birdie, why'd you have to go? No more sunshine, it's followed you away. I'll cry birdie till you're home to stay. I'll miss the way you smile as though it's just for me, and each and every night I'll write you faithfully. Bye bye birdie, it's awful hard to bear. Bye bye birdie, guess I'll always care. Guess I'll always care. Guess I'll always care. Bye bye birdie, the army's got you now. I'll try birdie to forget somehow. No more sighing each time you move those lips. No more dying when you twitch those hips. You swivel and you sway, you're super duper class. There's nothing left to say, but Conrad, you're a gas. Bye bye
Underwriting for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield, serving the youth of the Whip City and surrounding communities since 1969. For more information on the Great Futures Club for ages 3 to 5, happening weekdays, and the Club Teen Center for ages 11 and older, weekdays from 6:30 till 8 p.m., go online at bcgwestfield.org or visit the club at 28 West Silver Street. The Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield. Great futures start here.
Listen to me, Michael Buster McMahon, Mondays 8 to 10 a.m. to learn the stories behind your favorite songs. Or don't. I'm not the boss of you.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:36. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I am your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So, Pete, I want to spend a few minutes because I promised Superintendent Zaporowski that I would announce this on my show this morning.
Okay.
So we have a couple flyers here. We'll actually be passing these out today at our curbside lunch. Superintendent wants everyone to know that he is on his Superintendent's Spotlight show tomorrow, which is April 29th from 8 to 10.
Expanded edition.
Yes, they are going to be talking about the new elementary school project. Is that right? I got that right, Pete? Yes. Okay. And so they are looking for, your input, the community's input. So you can certainly call into the studio at 642-9039 with your questions or comments, or you can join the show by Zoom. And I do have the Zoom information for that. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be passing out this at our lunch line today. And if anybody wants to stop by the Senior Center and get a copy of this rather than me, announcing all of these weird squiggly lines and numbers and letters.
There's also a second version of it at 6 o'clock at night.
Yes, yes, exactly. So this flyer is the 6 o'clock at night one. That's the Zoom one. That's joining the Zoom meeting.
That'll be broadcast on Channel 15.
On Channel 15, exactly. And then this one is tomorrow morning from 8 to 10, also on Channel 15.
Yeah, as normal.
So, yeah, exactly, as normal.
And WSKB Radio.
Right, exactly. So, and so the purpose of this is because they really do want public input. And I have a number of retired teachers and even a couple of retired principals that come through our lunch line. So I thought they may be particularly interested in this. But anyway, I told Superintendent Zapp that I would certainly make that announcement. So tune in tomorrow.
Busy morning around here.
It is. It's really, Pete. You're loading them up before you head on out of here.
Oh, that's nothing. Sure. Friday, I'm taping with Auerbach from 10 to 1 and then working the other job.
Wow. Holy smokes. Mark
well,
is
you know what
a busy guy.
I work harder going on vacation. You know the same thing.
Yes.
Getting ready for vacation than going on vacation.
Absolutely. Everybody, when they say, Tina, you really need to go away. I agree. I don't disagree. I think vacations are a great thing, but it is so much work to prepare because you have to work backwards. It's like, okay, what should I have gotten done? And it's fine if you have a schedule that's fairly flexible. I have a lot of deadlines on my schedule, and so do you. Obviously, you're in media. I mean, that creates, my newsletter. There's a deadline. There's a deadline for when I have to write it, to get it to Jim Corwin at the paper, to proof it, to get it published.
Yeah.
Meetings.
I still have to do all my programming schedules. Yeah. I might do some of that while I'm on the road too. Mm-hmm. And there's still meetings when I'm gone, but I got Mark St. Jean and Jenna from the college to cover most of them.
To cover most of those. Good.
There's a couple of doubles where I'm going to have to cover a meeting from Florida or Texas.
From Texas. Yeah. Remember where you're going this time.
Yeah,
all right.
Sure.
So as a reminder, folks, Joe Rouse from the Health Department will be with us second hour discussing the governor's new guidelines that he revealed late yesterday, and other, COVID-related information. April is National Humor Month, and I love this because Humor plays an essential role in our overall health. You know, this is a show about health and wellness. And I can't tell you how many times, and especially during the pandemic, you know, where we've talked about the fact that humor has been so important. You have to be able to laugh. When you're in the middle of, you know, disaster and crisis, there's got to be something that you can laugh and find joy in, because otherwise it's all too overwhelming. So the ability to smile, laugh, and play are directly related to the way we express our personality. It's one of our more redeeming qualities, if you will. The more we can laugh at ourselves, the better suited we are for the world around us. Jokes and general silliness help to increase our heart rate and blood flow, bringing oxygen to our brain and vital organs. A sparkle dances in our eyes as hormones flood our bodies, reducing pain and stress. Can you imagine a world without laughter? So the history of April as National Humor Month is that Larry Wilde, director of the Carmel Institute of Humor, comedian, and author, founded National Humor Month in 1976 to share the therapeutic benefits of humor with the world. And there are, I'm trying to remember the book, and I should have brought it. I have copies at home of the guy, he was a physician, and he was diagnosed with, it wasn't cancer, but it was a very, very serious illness. And he would bring in all of these like Abbott and Costello movies to the hospital when he was a patient there, and make, you know, this was way back, like back in the 60s, before anybody was thinking humor was, you know, how could that be therapeutic? Oh my God, I cannot think of his name, but I will come up with it. Anyway, he would just put these movies on with his wife. His wife would come and visit him, and he would just be laughing, and you could hear him like all the way down the hall. And the nurses, you know, and the other physicians were, what? This guy is totally off of his rocker. But he really knew that, you know, the power of humor and the ability to laugh at ourselves and situations, and you know, you just have to be able to do that. I remember having a conversation with my mom, and my family has, you know, we love to laugh. I mean, we get together and it's one big, you know, laugh fest, and who can talk louder and faster than the next person. But my father, as many of you know, I've been very open with the fact that my dad had Alzheimer's disease, and it was about a 7-year process before he passed away. And, you know, there were times when anybody who's worked with anybody with dementia or Alzheimer's, you know, sometimes you know that the situations can be so absurd that you really just have to laugh.
Yeah.
But you know, the thing that was so funny was that I can remember when the family would get together, and pretty far into my dad's Alzheimer's, where he really was having a lot of difficulty processing the meaning of what was happening, and especially if the conversation was flowing pretty quickly. It was hard for him to follow. But when we all started laughing, he would just sort of join in with the laughter. You know, he even though he didn't know what we were laughing about. But, you know, have you ever walked into a room or been with somebody who's watching a movie? Gary he's a huge laugher. And so when he's watching a TV show or a movie and he thinks something's funny, he will just be belly laughing. Sometimes I'll be in the kitchen, you know, doing the dishes or, you know, doing something at the table, and I'll just start laughing because I'm laughing at him, laughing at whatever he finds funny. So it really is contagious.
Okay.
And good for the soul, and good, you know, again, there's been a lot of research now. So now we have scientific research to back up the importance of laughter. So having said all of that, let's take a short break before we do some announcements, Senior Center announcements and Westfield announcements, because it is National Humor Month, and my favorite song to really get me going when I need a good laugh is from the movie Mary Poppins, and it was sung by Dick Van Dyke and Ed Gwynn, and it's called I Love to Laugh. So let's listen.
I love to laugh, loud and long and clear. I love to laugh, it's getting worse every year. The more I laugh, the more I fill with glee, and the more the glee,
The more I'm a merrier me. It's embarrassing. The more I'm a merrier me.
Some people laugh through their noses, sounding something like this. Dreadful. Some people laugh through their teeth, goodness sakes, hissing and fizzing like snakes. Not at all attractive to my way of thinking.
Some laugh too fast. Some only blast. Others, they twitter like birds.
You know, you're as bad as he is.
Then there's that kind what can't make up their mind. When things strike me as funny, I can't hide it inside and squeak as the squeakers do. I got to let go with a hoe. And we love to laugh loud and long and clear. We love to laugh so everybody can hear. The more you laugh, oh my goodness, the more you fill with glee. The more the glee, the more we're a merry.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Join us every Thursday morning
from 6 until at least 7:30.
Check out the Bobby G and Company Show
right here on WSKB 89.5
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. I hope you're laughing. It is 6:47. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning.
So, Pete, I have a birthday, and this one is just for you, okay?
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever heard of Jerome. His nickname was J. Apt the Third.
No.
Ever hear of him? Okay. This is somebody that you should put in your little trivia bank because he's an astronaut. He was born April 28th, 1949. Are you ready, Pete? In Springfield, Massachusetts.
No kidding.
Yes, he's 72 years old today. So Jerome Apt, APT, looks like apartment, but attended Harvard University and went on to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where he earned a doctorate in physics in 1976. In 1980, he joined the Earth and Space Sciences Division of NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory as a scientist doing planetary research. He worked in the Mission Control Center, and in 1985, he was selected as an astronaut candidate. He has over 6,000 hours of piloting aircraft, has flown on 4 space missions, and has logged over 847 hours in space. In 1991, Apt flew on the STS-37 mission aboard Shuttle Atlantis. He made 2 spacewalks with Jerry Ross, manually deploying the Compton Gamma Ray Observatory's radio antenna when it failed to do so automatically. And on the next day, during their second spacewalk, he tested hardware later used on the International Space Station. How do you like that?
Cool.
That's just for you, Pete Coles.
I'm looking up his picture. I think I've seen him before.
Yeah, Springfield, Massachusetts.
Cool.
Yahoo! I know. I was like, it's space, it's an astronaut, it's Springfield, and Pete's going to Texas. How good is that? I was so proud of myself on that one. All right, we have a couple more birthdays, but before we get to that, let's do a few announcements. So first of all, today is the last airing of the comedy performance Mabel and Jerry, which is on the Senior Center programming, but of course it's for anybody to watch. It's a comedy, so, this fits right in with National Humor Month, folks. Tune in so that you can laugh if you haven't seen it. And I believe, Pete, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that this is one that we could not put on YouTube, right?
Yep.
So if you haven't seen it, you need to see it. So tune in to Channel 15, and it's on this afternoon at 2:40. This is the last airing. It's been on Saturdays and Wednesdays throughout the month, and thank you, Pete, for doing that. This stars local actor and playwright Steve Henderson and his sidekick Linda Slozak. And they are Mabel and Jerry, a delightful couple looking for, love and excitement and so forth. So the last time of showing for that, so I did want to make sure that I made that announcement. The Voice of Experience newsletter, sorry about that, for the month of May is out. Early this month because the last Saturday in April turned out to be, like the 24th of April. So it's out nice and early. People have been happy to get it. So just to let you know, so one of the big announcements on this one, front pages, we're actually having 2 tributes to our volunteers this year. We've obviously had limited numbers of volunteers because of COVID. So we decided to kind of split them up. So next Thursday, we are going to be honoring our volunteers who helped out with our curbside lunches, with our brown bag program, with mask making. So we've had, sort of those specific, there are 19 of them. Many of them will be in the Senior Center parking lot during a special tribute luncheon, curbside luncheon for them, kind of saying hello to people as they snake their way through the parking lot. And that is, our opportunity and the seniors' opportunity to roll down your window and say thank you. They'll all have name tags on, so you know who they are. And I would like to mention them by name. There aren't that many of them. So, for safety reasons, initially, when COVID first struck, the Council on Aging staff really called on our family members to help us. And so that included Gary and Grace Gorman, John and Nick Najowski, and Jake Noblet. And all of them helped us with our brown bag program and our special programs and our lunches. Gary and Grace obviously also did their fitness taping. We're still hearing people that are raving about that and are still participating. The first non-family member to help us out on a regular basis will be in this studio beginning at 8 o'clock, and that is Harry Rock. Harry Rock was the first non-family member that jumped in to start hosting the Westfield Council on Aging Presents series, and he was asked to do so by producer Pete Coles, who thought this would be a great way to facilitate that presentation instead of having somebody in the studio behind a podium kind of talking to just
They're
Pete.
far better when it's conversational.
Exactly. So thank you, Pete, for coming up with that idea, and thank you to Harry, who Pete and Harry just taped the May session last week and decided that was the 13th session. So Harry has done 13 of those for us. So I'm hoping Harry will be there. Joelle Thibodeau has delivered several hundred meals to Hampton Village residents. She was delivering lunches every day to Hampton Village residents. Kathy Millis, who's on my Friends board, and Harry Rock, by the way, is also on our Friends board. Kathy Millis has helped out with just about all of our special events and as well as our brown bag program. Mask makers, we had 3 mask makers who they made hundreds of masks. Barbara Dalton, Ruth Ann Fuller, and Debbie Rivera. Debbie is the wife of Ray Rivera, who's on the Light Board Commission. And then we had 5 tax aid volunteers, Bruce and Judy Tomaso, who will be there, Robert Walland, who will be there, Danuta Lacey and Diane Barstow. I'm still waiting to hear back from them. And then we had 2 people who delivered brown bag for us on a regular basis and did a lot of delivery. Jean Paulson and Jeanette Fletcher. So and then I can't believe I almost left out our absolute volunteer extraordinaire who's been with us every day since I think June 1st, and that is Barbara Martone, who has helped out with lunches every single day, vaccine clinics, special events, bingo bag deliveries, you name it. We have asked Barbara to help us out, and she's been there. So we will be honoring those people with a turkey dinner. So it is open to anyone to, sign up for it. The call-in will be this Friday beginning at 1 o'clock. So it is an advanced registration for this. It's going to be, it's like a Thanksgiving dinner. Turkey,
Right, sure.
stuffing, the whole thing, which will be really wonderful. As I said, we'll have our volunteers kind of sprinkled throughout the parking lot as our lunch crowd makes its way through. So please give us a call on Friday, 562-6435. To make your reservation. And we really hope that you'll help us to honor those folks. And then we'll be doing another volunteer recognition in early June, and that will be for our companion program volunteers. There are about 20 of them who have been doing yeoman's work throughout this pandemic. They've been doing contactless grocery delivery for a lot of our folks. They've been doing phone buddies, have been taking people to vaccine clinics. So all good stuff. So please help us to honor our volunteers. And then at the end of May, we are doing, this is also on page 1 of the newsletter, we're going to be doing our Mother's Day luncheon, our curbside luncheon. This will be a pot roast dinner, so another really yummy meal for you. And the staff decided that we often feel like we are working for an airline when we're out there with our food carts and our fluorescent vests and we're doing traffic control. So we have decided for our Mother's Day theme, our theme is "Come Fly with Us," and so the staff and the volunteers will be. We have a whole airport theme going, Pete. So we've got signs,
scarves, and stuff.
Yes, we have scarves. We have pilots' hats. We have wings that we'll be wearing. So we're going to have a lot of fun with it.
Does the newspaper know about this?
They will, because I will be letting them know, absolutely. And we are asking our passengers who come through for our Mother's Day to wear your favorite vacation attire. So whether it's a Hawaiian shirt, a baseball cap from, some ballpark, wherever, something from a resort or a national park that you went to, anything like that, anything vacation related, put it on so that when you're driving through, we can all pretend that we're going on a trip. So that one's going to be a lot of fun. We're looking forward to it. Also, during the month of May, our monthly entertainment performance will be Richie Mitnick and Joe Samari. And Joe and Richie were supposed to perform last year, 2020, Mother's Day last year, at the Senior Center, in the Senior Center. We had arranged all that before COVID hit. So then we had to cancel that. And so who knew that we were still going to be doing curbside a year later? So we just decided we'll bring them into the studio. So they were here. They taped their performance, right, Pete? They were here, I think, on Patriots Day.
That's in the can, yeah.
Yeah. So that one will be
it came in on
aired.
my day off.
Yep. Yes. Thank you, Pete. I know.
Well, because the singer was going on vacation. They was come back and having hip surgery.
Yes.
So it's like
Joe, I believe, is having a hip replacement.
Right.
So
he
there wasn't
was
a
going to
lot
be
of
out of
wiggle
commission.
room.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. And just to make you feel better, Pete, my whole staff pretty much worked on Patriots Day, too, because we had a vaccine clinic with the
That's
Housing
right,
Authority.
yeah.
So you were not alone. But that was the reason I didn't make it to the studio, because I wanted to be here for Richie and Joe. But anyway, that will be aired, as Pete has been doing, on Wednesday afternoons and Saturday evenings, beginning next week, beginning a week from today. And the name of the performance is The Way It Used to Be. Joe does a lot of, Tom Jones, Frank Sinatra, Engelbert Humperdinck, Michael Bolton. So that should be a really good concert. And we just thought we would do something kind of to celebrate moms throughout the year. Those are their sort of songs, but we'll be playing it throughout the month. So, and the Council on Aging presents, I mentioned before that Harry Rock and Pete and I taped that session, so I did that one. It was a lot of fun, as it always is, to do that with Harry. The topic is valued and creative aging. What is the recipe? And there is a recipe. You know, some people age much more successfully than others. And, you know, some people think, oh, they are so lucky. You know, they're out there and they're doing and they're traveling, or they're doing hobbies that they're passionate about. Well, it's not that they're lucky. It's that they've worked at it. And so there is a recipe for that. And we talk about that. All right, it is 7 o'clock. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We'll do our top of the hour break, and we have a couple more birthdays to do. And in about 15 minutes, we'll have Joe Rouse from the Health Department with us. So we will be back.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Dental. Comprehensive dentistry at 14 convenient locations in Springfield, Chicopee, Longmeadow, West Springfield, Belchertown, East Longmeadow, Ludlow, Northampton, Greenfield, and Wilbraham, as well as 29 Broad Street in Westfield. Bay State Dental makes it a priority to help you achieve and maintain the healthy smile you deserve. On the web at baystatedental.com.
This is Ken Stomsky from Ken's Den on WCPC 15 and 89.5 FM, Tuesdays, 8 to 10.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:03. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning. I don't know if you noticed, but yesterday, you normally don't catch the 8 to 10 show, but
I don't.
Kenny celebrated his 250th monologue yesterday with some doozies that he's had over the years.
Okay, there you go. That is quite an accomplishment, 250.
There's some good ones.
Holy smokes. Well, congratulations, Kenny. Okay. And speaking of monologues and humor, we've been talking about humor. Today is the birthday of television personality and comedian Jay Leno.
It's The Tonight Show with Jay Leno.
Go, Pete. Jay Leno was born April 28th, 1950 in New Rochelle, New York. He's 71 years old today. He was born in New York, but he actually, Pete, here's another trivia for you. He spent most of his childhood in Andover, Massachusetts.
Correct, I knew that.
Did you?
He claims that as his hometown.
There you go. He attended Emerson College in Boston and graduated in 1973 with a Bachelor of Arts degree in speech therapy. Beginning his stand-up career while in college, Leno moved to Los Angeles in the 1970s and wrote for the television show Good Times alongside fellow future late-nighter David Letterman. Who knew that? Leno forged a reputation as one of the busiest performers in comedy. For years, he booked more than 300 appearances annually. That's almost one a day. That's a lot. He also became famous for his clean, observational brand of humor and cartoon-like facial features, which he made reference to in the title of his 1996 autobiography, Leading with My Chin. He became a guest host of The Tonight Show in 1987 and took over as permanent host after Johnny Carson retired in 1992. Leno stepped down to launch a primetime show in 2009, but that didn't work so well. Yeah, that failed, and he very quickly returned to the Tonight Show for
That's when they screwed Conan
4
O'Brien
years.
big time.
Yes, because there was movement back and forth, and then they shifted O'Brien, and then Leno came back, and yeah. That was kind of messy.
Yep.
And so Leno was at the Tonight Show then for another 4 years. He has also hosted Jay Leno's Garage since 2015. I understand he's quite the classic car buff.
Oh, he's a gearhead.
Yeah, I have heard that. So happy 71st birthday to Jay Leno. And also talking about, Massachusetts and local people. We had an astronaut from Springfield and Leno who grew up in Andover, Massachusetts. So it is also the birthday of actress and model Bridget Moynihan. She was born April 28th, 1971. Pete's just got all the sound effects going. I know you did, right? She was born in Binghamton, New York. She's 50 years old today.
Do you know where she grew up?
I do, because I'm about to tell everybody else. When Bridget Moynihan was 7 years old, her family moved to Longmeadow, Massachusetts. She attended Longmeadow High School and was captain of the girls' soccer, basketball, and lacrosse teams, graduating in 1989. As a child, Bridget Moynihan described herself as a tomboy. After graduating from high school, Moynihan pursued a modeling career despite admitting that she had never read a fashion magazine growing up. She had accompanied a friend to a modeling audition in Springfield and was signed by the modeling agency instead of her friend. I'm sure that was great for the friendship. Bridget Moynihan began her career appearing in department store catalogs in Springfield, Massachusetts, during which time she attended the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Moynihan moved to New York at age 18 and a year later began appearing in magazines such as Vogue, Elle, and Glamour. Discussing her early work in an interview, Moynihan said, "It was a crazy world that paid a lot of money. I liked being a model, but I knew it would never last, so I looked into acting." Moynihan made her feature film debut in the 2000 comedy drama Coyote Ugly as Rachel, a bartender and dancer in a wild New York bar, a role considered Moynihan's breakthrough. In addition to her roles in films, Bridget Moynihan stars in the CBS television show Blue Bloods, playing Assistant District Attorney Aaron Reagan. In her personal life, Moynihan dated NFL quarterback Tom Brady from 2004 until December 14th of 2006. Her representative confirmed their split in a press release to People in December 2006, stating they had amicably ended their 3-year relationship.
And there have been sightings of Tom Brady at Thanksgiving dinner at her house, because I know where it is and I know who lives across the street.
No kidding. Oh, Pete, you're just full of all this good, juicy, as my brother would say, gossip and trash. On February 18th in 2007, so that was 2 months after they stopped dating.
I think they still remain pretty amicable, though.
Pretty friendly. Yeah. Moynihan's representative confirmed to People magazine that she was more than 3 months pregnant and that Brady was the father. On August 22nd, 2007, Bridget Moynihan gave birth to son Jack Moynihan. Despite media reports that Moynihan and Brady had an acrimonious relationship, the two have maintained a cordial relationship since the birth of their son. So there's all the latest G&T, gossip and trash, as my brother would say.
Yep.
But
she was a classmate of my middle ex-sister-in-law. They went to school together.
Okay, yeah.
And I think Michelle played soccer too.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, I mean, she was obviously very athletic. So, yeah, all around. And, you know.
I think they still chat once in a while.
Very pretty and very talented and, you know, very famous. So happy 50th birthday. Boy, she's looking good for 50.
Yeah, she's my age.
Hats off to her. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, couple more.
Your guest is coming in via phone because he's got a 9 o'clock Zoom as well.
Oh,
or
understood.
Or 8 o'clock Zoom, and he didn't want to have to run out of the studio early. So
that's fine. No problem.
I'm gonna give him grief for it, anyways. But.
Okay. Well, we'll do. I want to do a couple more announcements, and then we'll play his theme song and bring him in. This one is important. The technology support for seniors. The Council on Aging has been partnering with Westfield Technical Academy. As you know, I've been announcing this. It's been in our newsletter for several months now on technology support. So if you have, especially if you have a newer smartphone or laptop or desktop or whatever you've got, if you are kind of, iPad, if you're floundering around and you need some tutorial, the seniors here in the business and what are they? They are, I'm trying to see which shop they're in. Business technology. Thank you, Pete. They are offering tutoring services, but this is the final month for it. So that's why I want to make sure.
Business tech and IT.
Yes, business tech and IT. So they will walk you through over the phone. We've had several seniors that have done this. They said the students were great. They're patient. They put it into language that you can understand. And even though they're not sitting there with you, they are talking you through it. So we had somebody who signed up yesterday for it, but I wanted to let you know because May is the last month because of course the students will be leaving and these students will be graduating. And so this will be the final month. So if you have a desire to do that, call us at the Senior Center at 562-6435. Mary Lou Najowski coordinates that with one of the instructors here at WTA, and we will set up a specific time for you to work with your student on your tutorial. So final month, folks, take advantage of it. It's free, and it's great experience for the students and very helpful to you. Also, dial a lawyer. The Massachusetts Bar Association provides free legal advice by phone on the first Wednesday of each month. And that's why I wanted to make this announcement today, because next Wednesday will be the first Wednesday in May from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. through its Dial a Lawyer program. So the next one, as I just said, is next Wednesday between 5:30 and 7:30. If you want to call in, if you have, and they cover a wide range of questions. So any of the following topics: bankruptcy, business, consumer protection, criminal law, estate planning, family law and domestic relations, government benefits and services, immigration, labor and employment, personal finance and personal injury, real estate and housing, all topics that they will cover. If you have any questions about that, any legal questions, the number to call is 617-338-0610 or 877-686-0711. And I have those phone numbers and that information at the Senior Center. So if you didn't have a chance to write that down, feel free to call me. Ask for me specifically because I don't think the rest of my staff has this necessarily at their fingertips, but I do. So give me a call and, again, take advantage of it. It's a free program. And I believe that 877 number is a toll-free number, I think.
877 are toll-free numbers.
Yeah, that's a toll-free number. So that's the one that you want to get because this is, otherwise you're dialing out to Boston. Next Wednesday is the Brown Bag program too, between 9 and 10. We'll, of course, announce that again next week.
Your guest is standing by.
My guest is standing by, so let's bring him in with his theme song. This is Good to Be Alive, Hallelujah by Andy Grammer. When we come back, Joe Rouse from the Health Department.
I've been grinding so long, been trying it for years. finally found It's good to be alive right about now. Good, 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 good to be alive right about now. Good, 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 good to be alive right about now. Hallelujah, let that bass line move you. Say, yeah, it's good to be alive right about now.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
I'm Mark Auerbach. Join me every Friday at 8 a.m. for ArtsBeat, where you'll meet interesting actors, directors, designers, and musicians here in Western New England. Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:18. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
And on the telephone, we have director of the health department for the city of Westfield, Joe Rouse. Joe, are you with us?
Good morning.
Good
I am.
morning.
I'm here.
I'm disappointed.
morning.
I thought you would be in studio with us, but I understand you have some other obligations.
Yeah, this is one of the things about the COVID and the new ways of doing things is that the in-person meetings are kind of falling by the wayside because we have that technological ability to, at the drop of a hat, just meet via Zoom.
Yes,
so,
true.
Yeah.
Yep.
So hey, that's fine.
Yeah,
but
it is.
I am disappointed as well, Tina. I did want to be there.
It's okay.
And I'll make sure that next month we actually do that. So
Well, we'll try. But Joe,
yeah.
as we all know, the situation is fluid.
Yes.
So we have to pivot.
Yes.
We've learned to pivot during these fluid situations. So all that means, folks, is that things change on a dime, and we have to change with it. But we've used these really nice terms during the pandemic. We all have. Pete and I were talking about this last week. Like, we all have the words that we never want to hear again. And I said to Pete, Joe and I had this conversation.
You're on mute.
His word is fluid. And my word is pivot, and Pete's is
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Yeah, and also efficacy. I think that can go away now.
Yeah, we're done.
Right.
So, Joe, so much is happening. Where would you like to start?
Well, I think but I'll just do so we have two different kinds of reports, right? So the governor announced yesterday some changes to the reopening plan, which I'll get into, but as I've said all along, there's Westfield and then there's Massachusetts, and they're not the same. Okay, we're in Massachusetts, but Westfield, we've always been unique. We've always kind of marched to our own beat, and I just wanted to do kind of a local update first before we get into the whole bigger picture of the state.
That's fine.
Yeah, so right now our numbers in Westfield for new confirmed cases are, and that is, I think I'll be reporting out later today, you're going to see a significant decrease from last week as we did from the week before, which is great news. I mean, I think yesterday I looked at the list. I get it provided to me every morning, and we only had one new confirmed case yesterday.
Okay.
So that's great. It really is. And, you know what I'm going to say already, because it's just been this resounding theme all along about being so, cautiously optimistic. And, I want to shout it from the rooftops, but here we go. We still have the aftermath of the school vacation week that we're looking at for next week, and keeping our fingers crossed that we're not going to see an uptick, although that is to be expected. And it's fine because it'll be a temporary and that'll all resolve itself. But, it's still kind of discouraging in the sense that we're doing so good right now in Westfield, and our cases, positivity rates are going down, and hospitalizations are going down, and deaths have flatlined at zero, no pun intended, for quite a while. And so that's great. But then, there always seems to be the next thing, like, waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? So we're looking at, hopefully next week it's not going to spike too much. And the school vacation is just not because people were on vacation, but there was a lot of traveling going on.
Right.
Not saying I disagree with that. People abide by the precautions and the advisories. But anyway, that's what we're going to look at. I think once we get past that next week and we see, the numbers can continue to go down or plateau, then we're really in good shape to move ahead with the governor's phase 2 or step 2 of the phase 4 plan.
Phase 4, step 2 coming up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway, back to Westfield. So, City Hall is reopened. Just want to throw that out there. Our department is partially open. The health department is. We're still doing COVID contact tracing, so we have to be careful with confidentiality. We have contact tracers that are kind of out in the common area of the office, so we can't have people coming in when they're doing their thing and contacting patients and stuff. But when that's not happening, then we will be open so people can walk in to the department and do whatever business they need. So that's good. And just trying to think what else specific for Westfield that, other than...
I think, Joe, just because you brought up the City Hall being open, I think we need to talk a little bit about that. And just the fact that it's opened for people to come in and do their business and then leave. It's not open for, socialization, knock on all the doors in the departments, stand around, shoot the breeze, that kind of thing. We're really discouraging that.
Well, we have a little bit of a deficiency at City Hall, which we've had forever and ever. And as time changes, we need to adapt in a certain way, which I think the physical layout of the building is not in the best interest of employee safety.
Right.
So that we just, you're right. We can't have people lingering around, going office to office, and like, oh hey, how's everything going? That's not. Even the mayor has said it's official city business. This isn't a social hour, and we do have various people, kind of roaming around to make sure that that's not happening.
Yep.
And if it is, it's not like we're just asking people to use their own discretion. It's really, we had a police officer in there, and if we need them, they will come and do what they need to do. So, not to be too heavy-handed about it, but it is a problem when, we're asking people to limit their time in the individual offices too. So no hanging out and having conversations about the kids and stuff like that. So
because the big thing about transmission is time, right?
Yes.
Exposure time.
Right. Exactly. And the other thing is that most of those offices you can, and the signage I think is very good. There are signs all over City Hall. So if you do have to go into the building, make sure that you're reading the signs, following the arrows. But most of the city offices, you can only have one outside person in there at a time because the space for them is small. So, you can't have three people being helped at the same time. You've got to wait out in the hall till it's your turn. So, do your business and then move on because there may be somebody right behind you that's waiting. But yeah, the space is limited. And as Pete was saying, and I know, Joe, you have talked about that a lot, it's time exposure. So how long if you were having a conversation with someone who turns out is infected, how long was that conversation going on? Was it, sort of passing in the breeze? Was it a 2 or 3 minute conversation, or was it a full blown, sit down in my office and talk to me for half an hour? Because that puts you more at risk, obviously.
Right. Yeah, we've had those internal conversations, and one of the things that is I was trying to say, because there were offices that were very concerned about reopening to the public, and the reason for the limit, and you want to kind of move people through as quickly as possible, is it's what's even worse, and not necessarily for the employee, but for people's exposure, is to be queued up out in the hallway and not maintaining social distancing and spending too much time too close to somebody. So it's really for the residents' benefit. And the other thing is, with the control measures that we have at City Hall, all of those things have to be abided by equally and together. And if any one of those measures fails, the whole system is thrown. So, with mask wearing, social distancing, time spent, and also we have some barriers in the front-facing offices where people do transactions that will be just one more thing. But yeah, even just that time exposure, even if everything else is in place, you could still be considered a close contact if somebody were positive.
Sure. Oh, yes. How well we all know. Yeah.
But the interesting thing was, just the one last thing about City Hall, is that we prepared, for weeks and weeks. We actually had to delay the opening a couple weeks because we had a little bit of a spike in the cases. But going office to office, trying to make it as safe as we possibly could. And then you still had offices that were really nervous because you don't know what to expect. And then lo and behold, we open up on that Tuesday after Patriots Day, and it was like crickets. There was
nothing happened.
Nothing happened. No, where's the line of 20 people out in the hall waiting to pay their taxes? It just didn't happen.
Yeah.
So,
which was really great news, Joe, because I really firmly believe that we now have people have been indoctrinated over the last 13 months of a different way of doing things. And, now we have drop boxes, and now there's more availability to do things online and to do things on mail and to do things outdoors. And I see people all the time, because usually, like, even when I leave the radio show, oftentimes on my way into the senior center, I'll stop at City Hall just to check my mail. I got into that habit early on in the pandemic when there was nobody really at City Hall. I'd be in there at like 7:30 in the morning, and there were just a few people. That's the way I wanted it, less exposure. But I see people all the time using the drop box. At that, like, obviously they're on their way to work. Just pull up in their car, drop it off, easy as 1, 2, 3. And I think for a lot of people, it's like, hey, this is great. I don't need to go inside. I got a drop box now. So I think that's part of what's happened. I think that's positive, and that's a really great use of, the drop box and the new systems that we have in place. You've talked about Zoom meetings, and I have to tell you, I love them. I really do. I know not everybody is in favor, but I find them to be much more convenient. I don't have to deal with the travel time. If it's a city council meeting and I've got to be there for part of it, it used to be I'd be sometimes getting home at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. Now I can do it from home if I choose to do that.
Unless, of course, you're doing 10 of them a week.
That's true, Pete. But that's your job, so that's a whole different ball game. But and for like my Western Mass directors meetings, I mean we Zoom meet every other Friday morning, and we never did that before because who had the time? It would be 45 minutes to an hour to travel each way, and then you got another hour meeting. That's an entire morning. Now it's 1 hour. You log it. You come on at 9 and we're off at 10, and that's it. So,
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things, and it kind of comes full circle to my original comment about how we've come to rely on a different way now, and I think the convenience of what we've done at City Hall really resonates with a lot of people, as it would with me as a resident. I don't want to go in and have to deal with all whatever. I don't even know where I'm going. And so, boom, in the Dropbox. And the other thing is, just from the very beginning and dealing with our licensees about, how they can reopen food establishments, bars that want to turn into restaurants and stuff. And the complaints about, oh, man, now we have to do this and we've never done it before. And I kept saying to them, look it, maybe it's time for a change and to transition into something, reinvent yourself. I said, I'll guarantee you something positive is going to come from this. And so even though, this is the catalyst that made us all change how we live, and it's not all bad.
I totally agree. I totally agree. On that note, let's take a short break, kind of ending on that positive. When we come back, I would like to get into some of the governor's new guidelines so that we have a little bit of an understanding. I found them to be a bit confusing myself, so hopefully, Joe, you can help us to sort those through. We are going to listen to the Tornadoes doing Telstar. This is in honor of the birthday of Jerome J. Apt III, astronaut born right here in Springfield, Massachusetts, and also in honor of Pete's upcoming vacation out to Texas to hopefully see a launch. So we will be back.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donuts shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Join us every Thursday morning
from 6 until at least 7:30.
Check out the Bobby G and Company Show
right here on WSKB 89.5
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:36. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. Pete Coles is in the studio with me, and on the phone we have Joe Rouse, Director of Public Health with the City of Westfield, giving us our monthly COVID update. Good morning again, Joe.
Good morning. I don't even know what we're going to talk about when this is all over. I can't even remember what we talked about before.
I know. I said that to Joe. I said that to Pete earlier. I said, well, Joe's going to come on and, we're going to talk about everything COVID. I said, and anything else that he wants to talk about that's going on in the health department. But I know this has just been all consuming for you. And Joe, before we get into the governor's new guidelines, I do want to mention a couple of vaccine updates that we have. First of all, folks, this is phenomenal news, but both Walgreens on Silver Street in Westfield as well as CVS on Main Street in Westfield have right now this week plenty of doses of the Pfizer vaccine. So if, for those of you who have been holding out and saying, I'm not going out of Westfield, I want to get my vaccination in Westfield, this is your opportunity. We got word from the manager over at Walgreens who contacted us. CVS contacted us and said, let your folks know. Walgreens, you can just call Walgreens at 568-5116 if you would like to schedule in. And in fact, I think they were even taking walk-ins yesterday because I think they had vaccine that they had to get rid of yesterday. It's got a shelf life, so they had to work quickly. So both, again, Walgreens and CVS both doing the Pfizer vaccine this week. And also, for those of you who would like to take advantage of the new vaccination site at the Big E, if you are 60 and older and you need some help with registration, or if you don't have family in the area and you need help with transportation to the Big E or to any of the local pharmacies, give us a call at the Senior Center, 562-6435. My staff has been phenomenal about getting all the information. We have the top secret link to help get some of those reserved slots, as I like to call it. But there are some vaccine that's being reserved for Westfield residents on Wednesdays. So that at least we're guaranteed a certain number. So we have the link to the top secret link, I call it. It's not for public, but also anyone can. You can register for the Biggie on MassVax. So if you're not 60 or older, and if you're computer savvy and you can do all that on your own, feel free. You can also go through 211. So I think we've gotten to that point, Joe, that you and I have talked about. We talked about this back in February, that, we will get to a point where everyone who wants to get vaccinated can get vaccinated, and there are opportunities locally. You do not have to go to the Eastfield Mall. If you want to go there, that's fine too, but you've got opportunities now locally, so take advantage. Again, especially, this week we've got both CVS and Walgreens right here in Westfield. You can't get any more convenient than that, folks.
So ding, 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 and
yes.
You hit the nail on the head, and I can't let this opportunity go without talking about vaccine. So you're absolutely right. For example, yesterday morning, I was able to go on to the CVS website and make an appointment for somebody at the East Main Street Westfield site. No problem. Pick of dates and times, and just, leaps and bounds different from the way it was even a month ago.
Yes.
So it's not challenging. The CVS site couldn't be simpler. So, there's not there's no trick questions. There's no big narrative you have to put in. It's just really, check this, and then pick your time and date. I see no reason right now, and I'm not against the Big E site, but I can tell you that unless you have business in Agawam or West Springfield, you can get an appointment in Westfield, and it's CVS, it's Walgreens, it's Stop and Shop, it's Walmart, and it's Arrow Pharmacy up by the Turnpike.
Did Arrow? I know Arrow was on hold because they were doing they originally were supposed to do the Johnson & Johnson, so they're up and running now at
Right.
Arrow as well. Perfect.
Yep. So and the Big E site is, I guess, I've heard very well run, and
Yep.
You're in and out, but.
Yep.
I imagine there is some parking and walking involved with that too. So, it couldn't be easier to stay in Westfield and go to one of the pharmacies. And the other thing about that too is, as the availability is out there for the three different types of vaccine, whereas in the beginning, the local boards of health were told we were not getting any vaccine to do our own clinics, I anticipate that within the next month, they're going to make that offer back to the local boards of health and say, now you can apply for vaccine. We will give that to you. We're not, there's no shortage, and there's actually places where they're not using all of their doses every day, as they should be. So I would also, there's another opportunity in Westfield where we might be setting up a weekly clinic for vaccine in that respect. And
I'm ready for you, Joe. I'm ready for you.
And the other
my
thing,
floor is in, everything's set, my chairs are ready. We haven't touched anything. You let me know.
So it's going to happen. I know it will, and it might be a little too late at that point, and people will be just used to going and to other locations. But nonetheless, when it happens, if we decide to take it on, and we'll assess whether there's even really a need for that at that point.
Okay.
But yeah, you'll be the first on my list to call for that.
Thank you. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the governor's new decree yesterday. Where are we, Joe? How did you read this?
Well, I read the actual order itself. I know it can be confusing because you have different interpretations and different reports from different media outlets, and I think sometimes also not knowing the language or the format or whatever, it kind of loses something in translation. So I just and maybe we'll do a little, and then I know you'll probably have to take a break, and we'll come back to it because there's more than just a couple minutes. The first, and I'll just go in order, which the governor's order does not. It kind of goes backwards from timeline. So essentially effective the 30th of April, which is what, Friday?
Friday, yep.
I think it's Friday. Okay.
So let's start there because that's coming up.
Yep. So that's number one. What that is it's going to be the face covering order will be modified and relaxed for some outdoor settings. And this has been one of the things that a lot of people have called about, and the health duties have called us and said, what is going on? This is ridiculous. Why are we, wearing masks when we're outside at a kid's baseball game or something like this? And, the answer at that time was, well, there's still a mask order from the governor that when you're in public, you have to wear a mask, period. So now knowing that we're getting into the better weather and there's more outdoor activities going on, and knowing, the science behind the transmission of the virus, especially in outdoor settings, it is appropriate now to relax that face covering order. So as of April 30th, this Friday, you're only going to be required to wear a face mask when you're out in public outside if it's not possible to social distance. So, if you think about like what I mentioned, a kid's baseball game, a little league game, people have actually been very good about this because I've seen it. If you're a spectator, you're watching the kids, people are staying in their little pods and they're being socially distant from the others who aren't in their bubble. And if you do that, then you don't need to wear a mask. If it's an outdoor setting where you're all crowded together, or you're sitting within 6 feet of each other for something, then you should still have a mask on. But if you can socially distance, and it doesn't say 6 feet, it says social distancing. We've come to understand that 6 feet. So I guess we'll just use that as a gauge. Okay. But transmission is very, very low for outdoor, when you're outdoors, wearing a mask or not. So and I think it makes sense because, if you think about it at this time of year, more people outside doing this. Just think about going to Stanley Park and you're walking on the little trail or something, nobody around you for 100 feet, and you still would have to wear a mask. So that's a little much right now. And I do agree with that aspect of it, that, I think people are responsible enough now to know when they're outside, when there's a risk and when there isn't. So as of Friday, this weekend, when you're outside and you're doing your own thing, you don't have to mask up if you can social distance.
Okay. I can see where that's going to be confusing because it doesn't mean just because I think most people will interpret that to mean I'm outside, I don't have to wear a mask at all. And that's not the case. I mean, if you're outside, but you're in, an area where, as you said, you can't distance yourself from other people, then you do need to wear the mask.
So I'll give an example of that, which might make it easier to
Okay.
understand. The example
Perfect.
of not having to wear a mask would be what I said about the baseball kid, and even the kids on the field. You know, they're 6 feet apart. There's no reason why. If it's another sport like basketball or something, then you're close contact. You're not social distance.
Yep.
And so the other example would be right now there are certain events that are allowed. So let's say you go to a wedding that's outside, and they're allowed to have up to 150 people right now, currently the way the law is. So in that case, you know, you picture like you're going to be under some sort of tent or something, or a pavilion, and they're going to have chairs, and then you're going to go and you're going to sit down. Well, most of the time they don't put out chairs 6 feet apart from people. So even though you're outside for this outdoor wedding and you're sitting there as a spectator, you're going to be sitting next to people that you may or may not know. In that situation, you're not social distancing, and you would need to wear a mask.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. I think an example really helps to kind of clarify things.
Yep.
All right. So that's effective on Friday.
On Friday, and that's a big deal because, like I said, you know, in the beginning of this whole thing, we were getting, and I'm sure you were too, a lot of compliments and a lot of thank yous. And as we approach the end, where people are fed up and they don't want to deal with it anymore, you know, you start to get a target on your back, and you get the complaints and the angry people, and right. So, but this ought to help.
So, is there anything else that other than the mask mandate and some changes in that, some tweaks in that? Is there anything else that is effective April 30th?
No, that's the only thing. It's just the outdoor mask.
Because I printed out the whole. I'm also on the chain for the local, you know, for the boards of health so anything that you all are getting for Board of Health stuff, I think all the COA directors are getting as well. So I had printed all of that out, and it's sitting on. I highlighted it. Of course, it's sitting on my desk. I didn't think to bring it to the radio station, but okay. So that's it for the 30th, and then Joe, we're going to blow right through the break. So what is the next date chronologically? What's the next date, and then what happens on that date?
All right. So the next one will be May 10th.
Okay.
That I don't know what day of the week that is, but. And this isn't so applicable to most people around here, but on May 10th, they're going to, right now, the large venues like the outdoor stadiums and even the indoor stadiums, they right now are at a 12% capacity. And as of May 10th, they're going to be able to increase to 25%.
Okay.
So, again, an obvious example of that would be Fenway Park, where they're right now limited to 12% of their seating capacity, and as of the 10th, they'll be able to go up to 25%, so more people will be able to go to the baseball games.
Okay.
And the other thing is there are certain industries that, you know, that's going to indicate that Phase 4 Step 2 status, where you're going to be able to have, like, Six Flags will be allowed to open. You know, it's amusement parks and outdoor water parks, and they have to operate at 50% capacity, and they have to submit a safety plan to the state.
Okay.
And then the other one, just on the road races, you know, like they have I think a marathon at Stanley Park.
Well, they do. It's very small anyway. It's a tiny thing, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a tiny thing, except, you know, guess how hard it was last year to convince the organizers that they weren't going to be allowed to have it. That didn't go over well.
Yeah.
So outdoor organized athletic events will be permitted, and there's conditions on that. Again, you have to submit a safety plan to either us at the Board of Health or to the state. And I think that's with like staggered times too, so you can't just have everybody going off at the same time.
Yep.
Now there was also a restriction on youth sports and amateur sports, like we'll talk about the Starfires, that kind of thing.
Oh yes.
Those things will be allowed even for moderate and high risk things. So baseball was never really considered a high risk thing.
Right.
So now you'll have something where you can have these events or things where even if it's high risk, you can still do it. And then the best part is, and I know Pete's going to love this one, is that you now will be permitted to sing at indoors with social distancing, so when he goes and does his karaoke performances, now that'll be back on the board again. You can go and do karaoke and
I can't
no
sing
restrictions.
worth a lick, Joe. It's all of my friends
Well,
who actually are performers that I want to go see.
Well, let me tell you, I don't think I've ever heard anybody do karaoke that can actually sing. So you wouldn't.
You'd fit
but
right
usually
in.
there's alcohol involved.
There you go.
But
Yeah.
anyway.
You know
Yeah.
what? And I have to say, Joe, I was very surprised at that one because everything I had read about transmission, like singing and projecting, is high risk. And I was very surprised at that one. For indoor, I mean, we were trying to figure out, Mary Lou and I have been trying to figure out how we can bring our choral group back outside at some point, but because there are like 30 of them, there's a lot of them, and we can't distance them inside anywhere. And it just, I was surprised at that one. I mean, I could see it for like small, not a large group, but 2 or 3 people or whatever, but I was surprised.
Yeah, it does say strict distancing requirements, and the standard on that all along has been beyond 6 feet. It's been more like 14 feet. So if you're going to be up doing a performance and singing, you got to make sure people are, I'd even err on the side of caution, say make them 20 feet away from you.
Yeah.
Unless it's outside, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But if you're inside and you're doing some performance, I don't know, the women's club or whatever,
right,
you're allowed to do that, but you just need to make sure people are far enough away. And by the way, in that environment, other than the singer, because the mask order is applicable only to outdoor issues, is that the indoor the indoor events, you're still going to be required to wear a mask. So just want to be clear that the face covering relaxation is for outdoor settings. The indoor face covering is still going to be required at all times in indoor public places.
So if you're singing indoors, you're masking. You're still masking.
I think that would be a ridiculous concession from the governor. I think that the intent is that if you're performing, if you're singing, you're not masked.
You're not masked.
But
Okay.
People, the other
but the
people
audience
are the people in the audience.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, this is that's what I said, Joe. When I read through it about 3 or 4 times because I was like, okay, well, wait a minute, what exactly does this mean? And there is, obviously there's always some room for interpretation.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and I guess that's going to be on us because we're the ones that are not necessarily doing enforcement because that has kind of been rolled back too as far as the fines are concerned. We're not doing that so much anymore.
Right.
Especially for smaller gatherings in private homes, we're not going to be issuing tickets to people like we were able to before.
Right.
So yeah, that's the deal with the May 10th issues, and it's a matter of opinion. We have a meeting tomorrow with our public health consortium from the county with all the health directors, and I'm curious to see what the reception is of this in the public health world. I know I have my own personal feelings about it as far as the May 10th. I know it sounds like it's right around the corner, and it is. But again, like we've always said, in this world, even a week or 2 is just that's a game-changing amount of time.
Well,
so
yeah, things can really. We've learned that things can really turn on a dime, And I was just listening to a story on what's happening in Michigan right now, and the number of young people that have been diagnosed, the number of young people that are on ventilators, and the reporter was kind of saying, "What happened?" I mean, like a month ago you were okay, and it was almost like this perfect storm of. All the kids went back to school, then they had vacation, then we got these variants, and it was like one thing, and then it just snowballed and took off, and I know people, and you and I have talked about this, Joe, for the last couple of months, like people just want this to be over, but just because you want it to be over, it's not over. I mean, it just
it goes
isn't.
Back to, my original thing that I said in the beginning when we hit the COVID fatigue part of this whole thing is I said, you people would say, I'm done. You can't will it to be done. That's not how science works.
Right.
So
Can't wish it away.
let's get back and focus. Yeah, right. So, and also it's important to say with all of these dates, these phase 2 or phase 4, step 2 things, it's all subject to public health and vaccination data.
Yes.
So again, we're back to the same thing where go get vaccinated. Don't let us regress. Okay. Because everybody's now looking at you. The governor's thrown it out there and he said, you know what? Let's let the people decide how we move along with this thing. So that means just as before, you obey all of the public health guidelines and advisories, and then we can move forward when we start to see the numbers get under control. And the same thing with this. We can move ahead and aspire to get to all of these levels so long as the data and the vaccination rates stay where we want them to be.
And again, Joe, I just want to, as we begin to wrap up here, but I just want to again throw out to people the fact that, you and I were talking earlier about, this week in particular, everybody has opportunities to get vaccinated right here in Westfield. We've got all of the pharmacies have vaccine available. CVS, Walgreens, Arrow now has it, Stop and Shop, Walmart. So, I mean, if you want it and you're an adult and you're eligible, everybody's eligible now. So, it's not like we're not at the, 65, 50, 40, whatever it is, it's anybody who wants it. And they have the vaccine. And the last thing we want is to see any of this vaccine go to waste, especially since, you and I have been pounding that drum of please get it to Westfield. Well, here it is. It's in Westfield. So let's take advantage of that.
Yeah, and just to build on that, to make sure that people understand how important it is to get us to where we want to be, the next milestone, and I won't go into great detail, would be May 29th. So at the end of May, they're going to be increasing the gathering limits to 200 indoors and 250 outdoors. And also bars are going to be allowed to reopen, street festivals, more outdoor events like that. And so that's a big deal. A lot of these places, the bars and stuff have been either closed, private clubs, stuff like that. So May 29th, you can go out and get a drink and not have to worry about that. And then also the last one is as August 1st, very important date right now as a whole, that's when all of the industry restrictions will be lifted at that time, and capacity will increase to 100%. So all of the places that have been no, you can't do this. So ball pits, indoor water parks, dance clubs, nightclubs. I think they even said like saunas, like the sauna at the Y has been closed. That'll be able to reopen August 1st. And again, 100%. So that is when we enter into that new normal sort of things, where all restrictions are going to be lifted. That's what we're hoping for. Again, depending on all of the vaccine distribution, public health data, and they'll reevaluate it if they need to, but that's the goal right now. August 1st, we're going to be back to kind of the way everything was before. So fingers crossed.
Joe, I'll buy you a beer at the Brewfest on September 11th.
Okay. I'm going to take you up on that.
I'll absolutely.
All right, you two. Listen, we're gonna bring this to a close. So, Joe Rouse, Director of Public Health for the City of Westfield, thank you so much for the update. We'll see where we are in a month from now. Hopefully, on the right track. Folks, stay tuned. We have Harry Rock with Rock on Westfield coming on. And also a reminder that tomorrow from 8 to 10, Superintendent Stefan Zaporowski will be on with his Superintendent Spotlight. The topic will be the new elementary school. That is, so please tune in to Channel 15. 89.5 FM WSKB, and feel free to call in. That is participatory. They want your input. So I will see you in 2 weeks. We're going to do a best of show next week while Pete's on vacation, and I will see you in 2 weeks. Have a great one.
I can't keep up with what's been going down. I think my heart must just be slowing down. Among the human beings in their designer jeans, am I the only one who hears the screams and the strangled cries of lawyers in love? God sends his spaceships to America, the beautiful. They land at 6 o'clock and there we are, the dutiful. Eating from TV trays, tuned into happy days, waiting for World War III while Jesus slaves to the mating calls of lawyers in love. Ooh, sha-la-la, ooh, sha-la-la, ooh, sha-la-la, ooh, sha-la-la. Last night I watched the news from Washington, the capital. The Russians escaped while we weren't watching them like Russians will. Now we've got all this food, we've even got the moon. And I hear the USSR will be open soon as vacation land for